Claire walked quickly through the crowded airport. Her chest was tight, and her hands shook as she pulled her small bag close. Behind her, she could hear a voice that once made her feel safe, but now filled her with fear. Her ex had followed her, and no matter how fast she moved, she knew he was close. She turned a corner, hoping to lose him in the stream of travelers. Her eyes darted left and right, searching for a place to hide. The sound of his footsteps was sharper, louder, as if he knew exactly where she was going. Panic rushed through her. She spotted a glass door with a sign marked "Private." Without thinking, she pushed it open and slipped inside. The room was quiet, almost too quiet compared to the noise outside. Tall chairs and low tables filled the space. At the far corner sat a man, dressed in a dark suit, his legs stretched casually as he scrolled through his phone. His presence was calm, almost untouchable, and Claire's breath caught in her throat. Her ex's voice carried through the hall behind her, calling her name. She froze. Then in a flash of fear, she moved toward the stranger. She dropped to the floor and pressed herself between his legs under the table. Ethan lowered his phone slowly. He looked down at the woman crouched close, her wide eyes begging him for silence. For a moment, he said nothing, only raising one brow. Claire whispered, "Please don't let him see me." Ethan did not know who she was, but something in her trembling voice stopped him from sending her away. The door opened, and a man stepped in. He scanned the lounge, his face sharp with anger. Ethan leaned back in his chair, resting one hand on the table. He met the intruder's stare with cold calm. "Have you seen a girl come through here?" the man asked. Ethan's gaze stayed steady. "No, no one came in," he replied, his voice even and sure. The man looked around again but found nothing. After a tense pause, he turned and left. Claire stayed still until the door closed. Her breath shook as she pulled herself up from under the table. Her cheeks were red with shame, and her voice was low. "Thank you," she said. "I'm sorry I had to do that." Ethan studied her, his face unreadable. "You picked an unusual hiding place," he said. Claire gave a nervous laugh and looked at the floor. "I didn't know where else to go. He was right behind me." For a long second, their eyes met. Claire saw something sharp and distant in his look, but also a quiet strength. Ethan had no reason to help her, but he had. Her heart still pounded, but now it was mixed with a strange sense of safety. She did not know who this man was, but she felt she had stepped into something far larger than a simple escape. Claire stood in front of Ethan, her hands clutching her bag, as if it could shield her from the world. She tried to explain, but the words stumbled out in pieces. He watched her with steady eyes, giving no hint of what he was thinking. The silence pressed on her until she lowered her gaze. "I should go," she said quickly. But when she turned, the sound of voices came again from the hallway. Her ex was still near. Fear washed over her, and she froze in place. Ethan rose from his chair. He moved with calm steps, but his presence filled the room. "Stay here," he said. His tone was low but firm, and Claire could not bring herself to argue. The door swung open again. Her ex stepped in, scanning the space with sharp eyes. When he saw Claire standing by the table, his mouth twisted into a smile. "There you are," he said, his voice too smooth. "I knew you would not run far." Before Claire could speak, Ethan stepped between them. He blocked the man's path, his tall frame steady and cold. "She is with me," Ethan said. His voice carried weight, sharp enough to cut through the air. Her ex sneered. "Who are you to say that?" Ethan's jaw tightened, but his eyes never left the man. "Leave," he ordered. "She does not want you here." The man hesitated, caught off guard by Ethan's authority. After a tense moment, he muttered under his breath and backed away. When the door closed again, Claire let out the breath she had been holding. Her legs felt weak, and she sank into the nearest chair. Ethan returned to his seat across from her. "You should not be running through airports with men like him on your heels," he said. "I did not choose this," Claire replied. Her voice was unsteady, but her eyes held truth. "I just wanted to be free." Ethan studied her face, as if weighing her words. After a pause, he spoke again. "I can take you away from here." Claire blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. "Why would you help me?" she asked. Ethan leaned back, his hands resting on the arms of his chair. "Maybe because I do not like men who chase women like prey. Maybe because you asked me without saying it." For a moment, she did not know how to answer. but the sound of footsteps outside the door reminded her that danger was still close. Slowly, she nodded. Minutes later, she followed him through a side exit, his stride confident as if the airport belonged to him. Outside, a sleek car waited. The driver opened the door and Ethan motioned for her to step in. Claire hesitated only for a second before sliding into the seat. As the car pulled away, she stared out the window, her thoughts a storm. Beside her, Ethan sat in silence, his eyes fixed ahead. Though they were strangers, the air between them felt charged with something she could not name. She wondered if she had just escaped one danger only to step into another. Yet for the first time in months, she felt a faint spark of hope. The car moved smoothly through the city streets, but Claire's hands stayed tight in her lap. She glanced at Ethan, who sat beside her with the same calm expression he had worn since they left the airport. His silence made her uneasy, yet there was something steady about it, as if he was in control of every step. After some time, he spoke. "You cannot go back there tonight. It is not safe." His tone was flat but carried no doubt. Claire looked down at her bag. It held only clothes and a few old papers. "No home? No real place to go?" She nodded slowly. "Where are we going?" she asked. "My house," he said. "You can stay there until you decide what comes next." She turned to him, surprised. "I cannot stay with you. We do not even know each other." Ethan's gaze remained on the road ahead. "You are right, we do not. But I know enough. He is still looking for you, and I will not leave you on the street." The car slowed as tall gates opened. Beyond them was a mansion, its lights glowing against the night. Claire's breath caught at the sight. She had never been near such a place. The car stopped, and Ethan stepped out first. He motioned for her to follow. Inside, the house was wide and quiet, the walls lined with art and books. Every detail spoke of wealth, but also of emptiness. No voices, no warmth, only space. Ethan led her into a large room with tall windows. "You can stay here," he said. "Food will be brought, and no one will bother you." Claire set her bag down and turned toward him. "Why are you doing this for me?" Ethan stood still, his face unreadable. "Maybe I see something in you," he said at last. "Or maybe I am tired of being surrounded by people who only want something from me." She did not know how to respond. Her chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from something harder to name. Later that night, after she ate, she walked through the hall. She found Ethan in the kitchen, standing at the counter with a glass of water. He looked surprised to see her. "Could not sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. The silence in the room pressed on her, so she tried to fill it. "Do you ever cook?" A faint smile touched his lips, the first she had seen. "No, not really." She opened a cupboard and found simple things. Bread and cheese. "Come," she said. "I will show you something easy." He raised a brow, but moved closer. She cut the bread, her hands steady now, and showed him how to layer it. His movements were awkward, too precise, but he followed her lead. They stood close, the air between them different from before. When their hands brushed by accident, both paused. The touch was brief, yet it lingered in their minds. Neither spoke of it, but in that small kitchen something began to change. Claire woke early the next morning, the large room still half dark from the drawn curtains. For a moment, she forgot where she was, then the memory of the night returned. She was safe inside Ethan's mansion, though safety felt fragile, as if it could break at any second. She dressed quickly and walked down the hall. The house was silent, except for the faint sound of footsteps. She followed them and found Ethan in his office, already working at a desk covered in papers. He glanced up when she entered. "You are awake early," he said. "I could not sleep much," she replied. Ethan leaned back in his chair. "You do not need to worry, and no one will find you here." His words should have been enough, yet Claire's chest stayed tight. Her ex had always found a way before. She sat across from Ethan, studying him. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp, as if he carried battles of his own. Hours passed quietly until the sound of the front gate buzzer cut through the stillness. Guard's voice came through the intercom. "Someone is asking for Claire." Ethan's eyes hardened. He pressed the button. "Who?" The guard gave the name, and Claire froze. It was him. Her ex had found her again. Claire stood quickly. "I should go," she said. If he knows I am here, he will cause trouble for you." Ethan rose from his chair. His voice was cold, but steady. "You are not leaving." She shook her head. "You do not understand. He can ruin you. He will not stop until he gets what he wants." Ethan stepped closer, his gaze fixed on her. "I have faced men far worse than him. I do not care about his threats. You are safe here." Claire's throat tightened. No one had ever stood for her like that. She wanted to argue, but his words left no space. Outside, raised voices broke the silence. Ethan moved toward the door. "Wait here," he ordered. Through the tall windows, Claire watched as Ethan walked to the gates. Her ex stood there, anger burning in his eyes. He shouted demands, but Ethan did not flinch. His posture was calm, his words sharp enough to cut. Claire could not hear everything, but she saw how her ex's rage grew, how Ethan never stepped back. After several tense minutes, the guards forced her ex to leave the grounds. Ethan returned inside, his face still hard. Claire rose from her seat, her voice shaking. "You should not have done that for me." Ethan looked at her, and for the first time his expression softened. "I told you, you were safe here. But you should know something. I cannot explain why, but I do not want you to leave." Claire felt her heart race. She searched for words but found none. Ethan's honesty left her breathless. For months, she had lived in fear, but in that moment, she saw a different kind of future. She realized then that her soul was no longer drifting alone. It was tied to his in a way she had never expected. The night was heavy with silence after the confrontation at the gates. Claire sat in the living room, her hands folded together while her mind raced. What? She had lived with fear for so long that it was hard to believe someone had stood against it for her. Ethan entered the room, his steps measured. He stopped near her, his tall figure casting a shadow across the floor. "He will not trouble you again," Ethan said. His voice was calm, but his eyes carried the weight of the fight he had just faced. Claire shook her head. "You do not know him? He does not give up. He will come back." Ethan leaned against the back of the chair opposite her. "Then he will find me waiting," he answered. "I am not a man who hides." Claire met his gaze. "Why are you doing this for me?" she asked softly. Ethan's jaw tightened, as if the truth was hard to shape into words. "Because I do not want to see you broken," he said at last. "I have lived my life keeping everyone away, thinking I needed nothing, but the moment you ran to me, everything changed." Her breath caught at his words. "Ethan, you do not know me. I am not what you think." He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I know enough. I know that when you laugh, the silence in this house is gone. I know that when you walk into a room, I feel alive in a way I never did before." Claire's eyes stung as she turned away, torn between fear and hope. Before she could answer, the phone rang. Ethan picked it up, his voice steady as he listened. When he ended the call, his face was firm. "Your ex is finished," he said. "I had people dig into his life. He has debts, lies, and crimes that will end him. By morning, he will be too busy running from his own mess to ever chase you again." Claire stood, her hands trembling. It felt unreal, the shadow that had followed her for months suddenly fading. "You mean I am free?" she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Yes, you are free." She stepped closer, her eyes searching his. For so long, she had carried fear like a chain, but now it fell away. She felt the weight lift, replaced by something new and strong. Ethan reached for her hand. "No more running," he said. "Stay with me." Tears slipped down her cheeks, but she was smiling. "I never meant to find you like this," she said. "I was only trying to hide." Ethan shook his head, a rare smile touching his lips. "Maybe you call it hiding, but I call it fate." They stood together in the quiet room, her hand in his. Outside, the night was still, the danger gone. Claire no longer felt like a woman lost in fear. She was a woman who had found her place. Their lives had crossed by chance, but it was not chance that bound them now. It was something deeper, a string between their souls that neither could deny.